Sister's friend made up a story about me getting her pregnant, then asked for money and refused a paternity test. Found out she was baby trapping men, so I told her parents everything. For the past 3 days, my sister's best friend, let's call her Millie, 20F, has been telling everybody that I, 27M, got her pregnant and she's 6 weeks along now, and she's been asking me to contribute financially because she's not stable enough to support herself and the baby, and I've been refusing. It's all a bunch of baloney. I haven't even met the woman personally ever, but for some reason, my sister believes her wholeheartedly. She's in college right now, Millie is her roommate and they are very close. I have heard about Millie, and seen her a couple of times when my sister would come back home for the holidays and stuff, and she would occasionally FaceTime with Millie at certain points of the day, but that was as far as our interactions went. To get her pregnant, I would have to talk to her personally and meet her, and none of that has ever happened. But 3 days back, she just randomly put up an Instagram post accusing me of getting her pregnant and refusing to accept my role as a father, and she put up pictures of positive pregnancy tests along with it. I had no idea how to react to that, and my sister, just a couple of minutes after that post was put up, started calling and texting me, and she was pretty angry. She was telling me that if I did not help Millie out, she would tell our parents everything and make sure that they never spoke to me again. I tried to convince her that I had no part in this, I hadn't even met her, but apparently, Millie had planted this idea in her head that I had reached out to her over Instagram, flown in a couple of times to see her secretly, hooked up with her several times, but now, after she found out about the pregnancy and decided to keep the baby, I've been ghosting her and unsent all my previous messages and removed her, to make it seem like I was never involved with her. It's obviously a ridiculous story that Millie has made up, but my sister believes it, even though there is literally no proof of any of this. It's just her word against mine, and I even suggested that maybe she should get a paternity test, and she's refusing that as well, saying that it's an insult to her dignity. Obviously, I know that she's lying, but my sister is being totally weird about it, and I've had to block her because she was acting so strange, as if I was the enemy here, and kept saying that she was going to tell our parents, which would create a lot more drama. Anyway, this morning, I received a text on Instagram from some guy, let's call him Daniel, who claimed to be Millie's ex. At first, I didn't believe him, and I didn't even want to talk to him because he seemed to have something to do with Millie, and I wanted to stay away from that situation altogether. But then, he sent me a bunch of pictures with her, just to make it clear that he was not lying about anything, and then he told me that he actually wanted to help me. And I was not in a position to reject help from anyone, because my sister had given me until the end of the week to do something about any situation, and if I didn't do something, she would take this up with our parents, and even though I'm not scared of them, it would just be a lot of unnecessary trouble for me. So I spoke to the guy, and I was taking a huge risk, but it paid off because he told me that she was basically just trying to baby trap me, exactly what she had tried to do to him. A few weeks ago, they had broken up after 6 years of being together, since she had hooked up with some guy from a dating app, and a few weeks later, she found out that she was pregnant. So she suggested marriage to him, but he had just started out with his career, so he said no, and she started pressuring him to propose to her, even saying that she was pregnant with his baby and she intended on keeping it, so he had to marry her at some point and step up as a family man. Luckily for him, he found out from a couple of friends that she had been using a dating app, put the dots together, and ended up breaking up with her. Right now, nobody knows who actually got her pregnant. It was that guy from the dating app or her ex. The guy whom she had met on the dating app happened to be here on vacation, so he was already gone, and Daniel had broken up with her. So now, he suspected that with nobody else to turn to, she was trying to trap me, and she was obviously pretty desperate because this plan was definitely not going to work. And Daniel's guess was that she had picked me because I'm at a pretty stable place in my career, I earn well enough for my age, and of course, I'm her best friend's brother, so she knows that I'm not a terrible guy. In fact, I found out from Daniel that she actually used to find me very cute and had spoken about me multiple times to him. So it's not surprising that she has picked me to harass, but of course, I was very upset after finding out all of this. And that's why, I asked Daniel for her parents' contact info, since they had met a couple of times, and then, earlier this evening, I contacted her parents and told them everything, all about the situation that she had created, and didn't spare any details. I knew that her parents were slightly conservative, Daniel and my sister had told me about it, so I knew that they would be shocked. They had only let her go to college out of state because they trusted Daniel and they knew that he was going to be around. They had no idea that two of them had broken up, that she had been cheating on him, and the whole situation with me. So when I told them about all of it, they apologized and then they hung up. For a few hours, I didn't hear anything from anyone, but then, my sister started blowing up my phone from an alternate account, telling me that I had ruined Millie's life, because her parents were now demanding that she either come back to them right away, drop out of college, or they would stop funding her education, and she would have to do that anyway, or she could spend the rest of her life without the support of her parents. I think it's pretty fair. Daniel was still attached to her emotionally, so he couldn't bring himself to hurt her, but I don't care about this girl, so I did whatever I thought was right. I knew that her parents would demand exactly something like this, so I did what I had to. I don't understand how I am the bad guy here, but my sister is claiming that I've ruined somebody's life and saying that I'm a misogynist because now, she won't be able to study the way she wants to anymore, and that I should have just been civil about it and had a discussion with them instead of going out of my way to be a jerk. I think that's all ridiculous, but anyway, Ida for tattling? Update 1. Hi, thanks for all the comments. It's been a week since I posted, and recently, I decided to speak to my parents about the whole situation myself. My sister has been blocked ever since she started believing in Millie, but I know that sooner or later, she will probably reach out to our parents and get them involved. My parents are a bit old-fashioned, that's why I hadn't wanted them to find out about stuff like this because it would have upset them. Even if it wasn't true, there's just no need for them to know. That had been my intention, but now, I think things have gotten way out of hand. Because even after finding out that everything that Millie had been telling her was a lie, my sister still seemed to be on her side. I don't understand what's wrong with her, but I know that this is seriously messed up. To go to the extent of contacting me from another account, just to excuse me for ruining Millie's life and stuff, when that's the exact kind of thing that she was trying to do to me, it's insane. So I spoke to my parents and told them everything, and they were shocked. Firstly, because they had no idea that things like this were even happening in their kids' lives, and even more so my sister had turned out to be like this because we were actually pretty close. Even I'm pretty upset about that because in spite of our age difference, she and I really were very close. I don't know what went wrong, I don't know what Millie said or did, but now, she seems completely brainwashed by that girl. So much so that she is supporting her even when she's wrong, and going against her own brother and family. It sucks, and when I told my parents, they told me that they were going to try and talk to her because this kind of behavior was just unacceptable. My parents were paying for her to go to college as well, and they have told her that if she doesn't apologize to me, and cut ties with Millie, then they will be forced to do exactly what Millie's parents did. And by that, I mean that they would have to withdraw the college fund that they had put aside for my sister, and she would have to figure out a way to pay for college herself. I feel bad knowing that this is gonna happen to her as well, but honestly, I don't see any other way out of this. And apologize she has too, because her behavior, it's been really bad. I don't know if I will forgive her, but at least symbolically, even if she doesn't mean it, I think she must apologize. I also think it's very fair for my parents to ask her to cut Millie off because it's obvious that she's not a good influence on my sister, and actually I think that's an understatement because if that girl can get my sister to support things like baby trapping, then who knows? Maybe she will go on and support paternity fraud as well because I don't think Millie is too far off from committing the crime just to get her way. A lot of people in the comments were asking about why exactly she was trying to get somebody to commit to her and marry her instead of just terminating the pregnancy, which would make everything easier, and I think that's exactly why. Millie seems to be under the misconception that if she gets married to somebody, life will become easier for her because her parents will stop trying to control her, and she will also have access to her husband's money, aka my money. It's a crazy, desperate plan, and I can't imagine how controlling her parents actually must be for her to go to these lengths, but at the end of the day, it's wrong. Everybody has problems in their life, but not everybody jumps to the first most awful thing that they can do to get themselves out of sticky situations, and I have no respect for people like Millie, to be honest. I might have sympathized with her if she had tried to deal with her situation in a more dignified manner, but what she's doing, it's disgusting, and I think whatever her parents are threatening her with, she totally deserves it. And so does my sister. Update 2. So 2 days ago, I told my parents everything about what had been going on with me and my sister, and earlier today, I went over to my parents' house because they were planning on calling her and speaking to her today. I wasn't gonna say anything to her, and I didn't even want to. The last interaction that I had with her, it was when she had texted me from that other account, just to let me know about the consequences Millie was going to face her parents for doing all this, and instead of apologizing to me after she found out the truth, she was making me out to be the villain just because I told Millie's parents what she was up to. After that, I blocked that other account as well, and she didn't try to contact me either. I know she's not sorry about anything, but I still went over to my parents' place, because I wanted to see how she would react to any of this. I just sat there silently in the room when they called her, and when she picked up, she seemed perfectly normal, as if everything was fine. But then, my parents started talking about the situation. They told her that I had told them everything just a couple of days ago, and they wanted an explanation as to what she was doing because they thought that she was being ridiculous and that she owed me an apology. On the other end, she went silent for a couple of minutes, and then, she said that she couldn't believe that I had tattled to them as well, and called me an immature idiot. She didn't know that I was in the room, and I think my parents were about to tell her, but I stopped because I wanted to see what she was going to say when she thought that I was not there. She went on and told our parents that Millie might have been lying, but it was just because she was really desperate, and she knew that if her parents were to find out that she had gotten pregnant before marriage, they were going to force her to drop out and come back anyway. It had been difficult enough to convince them to let her go to college out of state, and even then, they had only agreed because they thought that Daniel was going to be with her. But now, she was all knocked up, she didn't even know who the real father was, and she was too scared to find out, so she didn't even want to get a paternity test. Neither could she terminate the pregnancy because she's totally financially reliant on her parents. She would have to ask them for the money, which would lead to questions, and she was scared of that. And instead of being with her and supporting her through this, Daniel decided to break up with her. From her tone, I could tell that my sister thought that Millie was the victim here, and Daniel was the bad guy for letting her down or whatever. It's crazy that she actually thought that Millie was the victim when in reality, the only reason Daniel had broken up with her was because she had cheated. If she had been faithful to him, then he might have agreed to marry her because the baby could have only been his. But she literally cheated on him, and God knows how many times that might have happened before, so why would anybody even trust her? Anyway, I think this is how normal people would think about the situation, but for some reason, my sister was convinced that Millie was the biggest victim here. But my parents were not having it. They knew the entire situation, including the bit where Millie had cheated, and they also tried to tell my sister that she was wrong. There was no way that she could be serious about claiming that Millie was the victim here, and that's why she had been desperate enough to try what she did. Even if she had been desperate, she could have just asked for help instead of accusing me, and trying to ruin my reputation and trapping me into a marriage or something like that. It was not just a stupid plan, it was also reckless and crazy and ruined everybody's reputation involved, even Millie's own, because she still got painted as a cheater since everybody else had believed that she was with Daniel. My parents were being totally logical about the whole thing. They were not screaming at her about anything, they were just trying to reason with her. But the instant she realized that they were not buying the whole victim act, she started yelling at them, telling them that they always treated me better than her, that I was their golden son and stuff like that, which is obviously not true at all. She just refused to see their point at all, that Millie had messed up. If she needed help financially, she could have gone about it a much better way instead of acting crazy. It didn't make any sense for her to accuse me of something that I hadn't done, just because she was desperate to have her parents stop controlling her. But my sister was not having any of it. She just kept screaming at my parents, until they lost their temper as well. They told her that they had given her a fair chance to acknowledge the fact that she had made a mistake, but now, they were giving her an ultimatum, and now, she could either apologize to me and cut Millie out of her life, or they would stop paying for her tuition. My sister immediately started screaming even louder on the phone, saying that she knew that I had suggested this to them, that I was bent on ruining her life and stuff. That's when I decided to speak up, and I told her that I was not the one who had suggested this. My parents had decided this on their own. The only thing that she had to do was acknowledge the fact that she had made a mistake, and then, she wouldn't have had to go through any of this. But for some reason, this girl has become more important to her than anything else, be it her brother, her family, and now even her education. She started cussing me out when she realized that I was in the room, and I got really upset, so I told her that since she was so enthusiastic about her friendship with Millie, they could now both be college dropouts together because clearly, they really do deserve each other. She probably had a lot more to say, but after that, my parents hung up the phone and blocked her number, because they really didn't want to talk to her at the moment. All of us are very worked up, and it was insane that even after knowing the whole truth, and the logical arguments against Millie, my sister was still supporting her. To be honest, earlier, I had been having second thoughts about my decision to tell her parents, but now, I think I did the right thing. No matter how controlling they are, I think Millie deserves people like that in her life because she's obviously not a very good person. It's just crazy, and I really don't understand how my sister turned out to be like this. She used to be a pretty normal person, but I guess this Millie girl has really done a number on her. It's pretty disappointing, but there is not much that we can do right now. My parents and I have accepted that. I just hope that with time, she comes to her senses, because otherwise, she's just going to be ruining her own future. I don't care about what Millie does, but I really don't want my sister to end up in the same boat. It's really frustrating that she's doing this to herself because she had the perfect opportunity today to apologize to everyone and make things right. But she really blew it, and the accusations that she was coming at our parents with were not even true. So if my parents were upset before, they are even more upset now, and after the phone call, they were considering not funding her at all, even if she decided to apologize. That's going to be pretty bad news for her because now, she's either gonna have to take out a student loan or have to start working if she wants to continue studying. It's sad because she's a bright kid, always has been, and she's just blowing it all up for the sake of this new girl. It's sad. Update 3. Hi, so it's been 2 weeks since my last update, and since then, neither my parents nor I have had any contact with my sister at all. After that phone call, she did not try to reach out to us, even though my parents did unblock her. When a couple of days passed and she did not contact them, they blocked her again and they were very upset with her. But then, 2 days ago, she showed up at my parents' place on the weekend to talk to them. My parents, though, made it very clear to her that they were not going to talk to her at all unless she apologized to me first. They even said that they were going to call me over, and she could do it in person, but she said that she was not apologizing to me. Because apparently, I had ruined Millie's life. She had to leave college a couple of days after I made that phone call to her parents, and had to go back to them. Since then, she hasn't heard from the girl. She doesn't even know if she's right, and she doesn't even know if she's ever going to get back to college to finish her degree. My sister actually started crying, saying that I was a misogynist who did not care about anybody apart from myself, and even if Millie had been lying and I found out about it, I should have spoken to her and tried to get to the bottom of why she was doing this instead of being so vindictive and taking it up with her parents, knowing that it could ruin her life. I don't understand how this is a feminist issue all of a sudden. Her parents don't trust her and want to control every aspect of her life. That's terrible, I get it. And women shouldn't have to go through any of this. I also accept that, and I'm a huge feminist myself. But in this situation? I'm sorry, but I don't think feminism has anything to do with it, because she literally tried to ruin my life and I just retaliated. Also, why would I try to understand where this was coming from? I haven't ever met the woman, and yet she started lying about me, and it's not like we were friends at any point. So if she didn't care about what became of me, why would I care about her? It was just ridiculous. So obviously, my parents did not have any sympathy to spare for either my sister or Millie. While she was crying at their doorstep, they told her that she could cry all that she wanted to, but at the end of the day, she could either apologize to me and try to make things right with me, and only then would she be allowed inside the house, or she could just go back to college and figure out a way for herself after this. And then, my sister threw a fit right on their porch, screaming at the top of her lungs at our parents. Once again, she accused them of favoritism, being biased against her, being heartless, and trying to put her down and stuff, but my parents didn't care at all. The second she started screaming, they just shut the door in her face. And then, she started banging on the door, so they told her that if she didn't leave within 1 minute, they would call the cops and then they would deal with her. So she cussed them out as well, but a few seconds later, probably out of fear of cops, she left. That night, they called me up to let me know what had happened and I was actually happy with the way they had dealt with the situation. But then, the next morning, she showed up again, and this time, she was a lot more apologetic. Only towards my parents, though, she still didn't want to apologize to me and kept telling our parents that she was ready to do whatever it took to get them back on her side again, just not apologizing to me, because she didn't think that I deserved it after what I had done to Millie. This time, though, my parents just told her that they didn't want her to apologize to me anymore, because they had made up their minds. They were cutting her off now, because she had caused a lot of trauma, and she was clearly not the person that we all thought she had been. This Millie person, whoever she was clearly more important to my sister than anybody else, even her own education, and I had been right to tell her that now, the two of them could be college dropouts together. After this, my parents were no longer interested in speaking to her, and neither did she need to apologize to me because clearly, she wasn't going to mean it either. That was when my sister started crying at their doorstep yet again, but my parents told her that she could figure things out on her own now because they were not interested in talking to her or helping her out. Then, she walked away, and that was it. Right now, we don't know what she's doing, but I do hope that she is safe. That's the only thing that I can do right now because honestly, she has shut all of us out and screwed her relationships up. And it's all her own fault, so she should have seen this coming. I do feel kind of sad about how this has all worked out, but I think my parents did the right thing. She's too far gone, and unless she's able to come to the realization that she's messed everything up for herself, there's just no talking to her anymore. Update 4. Hey, everyone. It's been 3 weeks since my last update and today, finally, we heard back from my sister. She sent us all an email, saying that she was back in college, and she had managed to convince some of her senior friends who had already graduated and had jobs to help her take out a student loan, and co-signed it, and that's how she was going to continue her education. Alongside that, she would also be working, and she just wanted to let us know that we had all failed her. She apologized to me, though, she said that maybe she was not completely right, but what I did was still a really terrible thing to do because they ruined somebody since Millie won't be coming back anytime soon. However, that apology now means less than nothing, so I don't know why she even bothered. Because clearly, through her email, it was obvious that she had somehow figured out a way to get by on her own, and she was just reaching out to us to make us feel guilty about it. It didn't work, neither our parents nor I felt particularly bad about what she was going through. She brought onto herself, I don't think we need to feel bad. Anyway, it's sad how the situation has turned out to be, but we can only move on. My parents and I are still keeping in touch, we are actually meeting more frequently than before, because I think this has somehow brought us closer. I was not the golden child before, but I think now I definitely am. I don't know for how long my sister is going to be shunned, but for now, this is the only solution, in my opinion.